Harry Kroner. Thank you very much for watching my show, A Better Me, Personal Growth and Meditation. And today I have two guests with me. I have Dave Moquin and Rick Boisvere. And we have both here. They are Psychic Bridges, and this is the name of their event that they're doing today, and the name of their new business. So we're going to talk to them about this today. So tell us first of all, guys, Dave, let's start with you. How did you come about being a psychic medium? How did it come about?
Well, you know, people oftentimes ask that as if, you know, you think you're a normal person, then an instant later you're now a psychic. I don't really care for the word psychic. It has so many connotations to it. Yeah. Actually, it's an awareness of what we all are. Mm-hmm. That we all have built-in abilities to perceive and understand and to communicate in ways that we're taught is impossible. But virtually all of us are mediums, and we're all healers, and we are all in communication. We're just not aware of it. Mm-hmm. And so we become aware of our awareness slowly sometimes. And for me, I had a near-death experience in 1992. And I was in a coma for a couple of days, and I had out-of-body experiences. I went, you know, colloquially they say, to the other side. And there's many TV shows and books and everything written on these experiences, because today, with the advancement in medical practices, people are being saved, and they do die and come back quite often now and have these experiences. So, you know, it's become the norm. People are accepting this. And I had that occur. And after that, because of that new awareness, I had dreams that always came true within 3 or 4 days, 2 details. I would know things about people. And I would know things about, you know, the parents. It startled me. I had no idea, why did I know that, you know? And why did I understand things that I have no business understanding? So it started that way. And then because of that, my wife sent me to a college program on something psychic, you know, a one-night course in the summertime. And an international renowned medium, Steve Herman, was running the class, and he told me he was going to bring dead people to us. You know, I pretty much wanted to walk out of there. Anyhow, when he came to me, he brought my father to me. In such terms, being an engineer and being a very skeptical person and non-religious, you know, I'm the litmus test. And I knew within 15 seconds that I was dealing with a reality I never gave credence to before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it started there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so Rick, I understand your story is quite different.
Yeah, my story is quite different. I was raised in a family that, I don't want to say was into this, but my mother has been for several decades a reader. People often ask me, does it run in families? Yes and no. It's as if you were in a family of musicians, you would be more likely to be a musician. Right. But that doesn't mean if you were not in a family of musicians that you couldn't be a brilliant musician or composer. I think it's an ability that everyone has. I was acclimated to it. I was not afraid of it. So it came to me easily. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say it came to me naturally, because it's natural for everyone to have this ability. I think we're all born with it, and we can choose whether we develop it and how we develop it. But I'm second generation at least, and from what I understand from generations before that, the people who I'm not familiar with, they had some sensitivity too. So maybe something that's been ongoing for more than 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah, some kind of an opening. Wonderful. Now, tell me a little more about how did you come about? So as you grow up, did you have those kind of feelings come to you naturally, or did you?
Well, I don't have one of those stories where I grew up talking to dead people. I couldn't write a book about my experiences growing up with this. It would be a pamphlet. There's very little information. Yeah. I decided, even though my mother had been doing this for many years, I distanced myself from it in some ways. And when I was in my early 30s, I didn't have what I would call a near-death experience, but I did have a little brush with mortality. And it just told me that this is the time to look into these things and start figuring out, if you have to go somewhere, let's find out where we're going. And I kind of skeptically went to a spiritualist church, partially to prove to myself that this wasn't true. And it kind of backfired on me, and it kind of kicked me in the head, so to speak, from the other side. And found myself saying things to people I'd never met before that I couldn't possibly know in tremendous detail. And it was someone's way of saying, you're not going home, this is real. So I just took it from there, and that was about 20 years ago. And I've been practicing professionally for about 15. It took me quite a few years of learning how to do this, how to control it, how to interpret it correctly, to feel comfortable enough to do it and ask people to pay me to do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my story, a little different than Dave's.
Yeah. So Dave, tell me a little more, how does it feel to do it? When you do it, how does it come to you? How does it...
Well, you know, the very first experience I had in actually bringing a message, when one was brought to me, my father was brought to me, I thought that was the only person in the world that could do it, and it was the most amazing miracle, and I just couldn't get around it. And then he asked me to go to a weekend retreat, because he said that you are what I am. You're going to be teaching this, which I didn't believe for a second, even though I have 40 years as a teacher. And at that retreat, I didn't envision myself being able to do this. And we were doing what they call psychometry. Everybody puts an article into a basket, it goes around, and you take somebody else's article out, and you just sense something about that person from the article. And I was the last one. And I guess I was kind of skeptical still, and really was bored. I wanted to watch Red Sox baseball, actually, instead of being sitting there that afternoon. Anyway, he had me stand up. I said I didn't have anything. He says, I want you to do this, David. He says, I want you to look at each person. I want you just to make up a lie. Just make up some stories. I'm saying, well, I can do that. I'm trying to think of one to get out of this right now, you know. So I did, and I found out at lunch, when we went to lunch, people started coming up to me, and I had brought their loved ones. Almost everybody I had brought a message to.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, something's going on here. And that was awfully easy. I mean, this is easy. People think that what we do is so difficult. Actually, the trick of this is to not do it. The trick of this is to let go and trust. You know, your brain is, we keep thinking of our brain is doing all the work with thinking, and we're emitting all the time. And the only time we're not emitting is when we're listening to someone speak. You know, and that's not so. There's stuff coming to our brains all the time. And much of it comes from spirit energy. It comes from energy. There's information out there. I don't know if you've ever forgotten someone's name. You can't remember it, and then you go, oh, heck with it. Oh, it's this.
That's right.
Because you were thinking. The minute you stop thinking, let your mind open, that information is being able to brought to you.
That's a good example.
All right?
Like
And this happens. You're working on something, you can't figure out how to do it.
You walk
Oh,
away.
heck with it. Start to walk. Oh, wait a minute, I know. And as you're doing, how did I ever come up with that? That's not something I normally think of. And so mediumship is kind of that way. If I were to come to you, I would send intent out. Whoever is around this person that wants to talk to them, that loves them, wants them to know that they're around, or has something they have to tell him, it's yours. And I don't think. I just wait. And sometimes it's something stupid like a marshmallow or something. And that's usually a test to see if I'm picking up. And I just, whatever comes to my mind, sight, smells, any of the 5 physical senses, the same senses psychically, then I just relay them. I'll just say them, I've got this, and I just wait, and then it starts the process, and before you know it, someone's speaking and bringing valid information. And my intent is that to bring what you know to such detail, you know who it is as fast as possible, so there's no guessing and no generalization, and that the message is important to you. Those are my 2 criteria. And as we do this for a while, the energies that are working with us, they get better and better, and we get better at letting them work. The biggest thing of this is to just not do anything, to just trust and let them do it.
Yeah. Rick, do you have anything to add to it?
Well, it's fascinating because if you ask 50 professional psychics or mediums how they receive their information, you'd get 50 different responses.
Yes, I know that.
Because everyone is an individual. In some cases, people hear things. They call them the clairs. There's clairaudience when you hear things, clairsentience when you feel things, clairvoyance when you see things. And there are other people who get other sensations, physical sensations of cold and hot. There are people who work with colors in their minds. And sometimes it's just not something you can explain. If someone is coming through and they ask me, the person who's sitting asks me what the person looks like, I don't see a picture of them hanging in front of me.
Yeah.
I see something in my mind almost as if I remember what they look like, even though I've never seen them before. Yeah. It's almost as if it's a memory.
Yeah, it feels like more like a memory.
Right.
I understand that.
And sometimes they will use
That's
what's
so.
already in my head. They'll show me somebody who I know who looked like that. An example, I had a woman I was bringing through her late husband, and she had had more than one late husband, and we weren't sure which one this was. And when I
Happens
asked
a
which
lot.
one it was, I was shown Abraham Lincoln. And I said, a tall man with a beard. And she said, okay, that's my second husband. I know who that is. So they use, it's almost like white noise. They use what's already here.
Well,
they may even show me a celebrity or someone who's alive to tell me what
that
this
looks like
person
similar
looks
to
like.
that. Yeah, I know. It feels like sometimes like it's as if they sift through your brain and find things that are similar enough, and then like
Absolutely.
find it.
Right, and a lot of people, or most people who work in this way, have their own set of symbols, which, if I get something symbolically for something, I will tell them what it is that I'm getting first. If they don't understand it, then I'll tell them what it means to me, because it may mean something different to them than it does to me. An example is if I'm shown apples, that means that the person who is coming through from spirit is a very generous person. Usually they show me the old lady giving out apples to children. One woman who came for a reading once, I was bringing through her grandmother, and I said she was a very generous person because I saw the apples. And she said, no, she wasn't. She was a terrible person. She used to stand on her back porch and throw apples at the kids in the neighborhood. So when I get something, no matter how ridiculous it is, I'm going to tell you, I'm getting a blue tiger. If you don't know what it means, then I'll try to interpret it, but I'm not going to assume what it means, because it may mean something different. Something as basic as a color. Red might mean happiness to me. It might mean angry to you.
That's right.
So,
it's cultural too.
right.
It changes.
Absolutely, yes, definitely.
Very good. Do you guys have any a more understanding of how you can bring it about? I mean, how do you, a lot of people ask us, so do you see all that all the time? Do you receive information all the time, or do you have some kind of a way for yourself to stop it? Any of you can...
Well, we're taught that you need to shut it off, and there needs to be a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
And everyone has guides and guards around them who kind of control that. And it is different with everyone. Dave tends to be, he'll be talking to someone in a regular situation, and people will come through for him. With me, it's a little bit more discreet. It's like, this is the time and place for it. And not that I've never experienced what I'm talking about with Dave. I've gone into a store and had to tell somebody, look, I have something for you. If you don't believe in this stuff, throw my card away and just give them the card and leave. I'm not going to give them the message, but give them the card and leave. And sometimes they throw the card away, and that's okay. But it's our guides and guards who kind of dictate when and where. And Dave's guides and guards are very active.
Yeah.
And
Tell us a little more about that, about daily life.
Well, I had a lot later. I was 62, and I realized this was possible, so I've got a lot of catching up to do. I don't waste time.
That's good.
In Westfield, Mass, most of the stores, if I walk in, I hear whispering behind me, that's him, that's him. Next thing I know, people are following me. The answer to your question of shutting off and turning on, it's kind of, if you, in your mind, say, gee, this is what my desire is. I don't want to have this, be doing this or be pressured to do this. Because what it is you get the energies coming in and say, listen to me. This person wants to come in, or this grandmother wants to come in. Her daughter's sitting there giving me something at the store, and she's there. And so I'm going to say no. So it's kind of a deal you make with yourself, but you're really making with these energies that we're talking about. We call them guides or whatever they are. And I work in nursing homes. I entertain for nursing homes. And I just said, I can't be bothered with that in my own mind to myself, but that's the same thing. And I never, ever get bothered in a nursing home. Going to stores and everything, I don't get bothered at all. But my deal is, the game is this. If all of a sudden I feel an urge, I have to go into the store, I have no intent to. And many times I've gone outdoors, got in the car, turned the key, not knowing why, but knowing that I'm supposed to. And I'll drive downtown, I'm kind of waiting, and all of a sudden I'll pull over and I'll pull in, and all of a sudden I just follow that, and I get to a store, I go in the store, pull me over to an area. This happened a couple of months ago, and it was a dollar store. I never go in there because I can't go in without spending $50, But I find myself in a dollar store, and I bought a couple of things. Still not feeling right. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't need them. On the way out, the girl is there, and all of a sudden her grandmother comes to me and says, tell her this. And I said, hon, I don't know how to say this to you, but you have a son. There's something about, I'm getting his head or mind or something, that he may be sick or something could happen. If something happens regarding your son and a doctor in the next 2-3 days, your grandmother's saying, hold your water. Do not listen to him. Make sure he gets a scan. Do not take him home. And she looks at me and she kind of understood this. Well, I didn't know. I didn't know she had a son, you know.
Yeah.
And she thanked me and I paid my stuff. And I felt the urge to go back there the next day, and I did. And she came up and gave me a big hug. She says, "You saved my son's life." Wow. She says, 4 hours later, my son collapsed. I took him to the doctors. He's had a brain tumor and they got stents and stuff like that. And something happened. And the doctor just said, "Well, just take this medicine and bring him home." I said, "No." They brought him to a scan and they said that if he had come an hour later, he would have been dead.
Wow.
And
That's
her
amazing.
grandmother saved her grandson.
Yeah, just through you.
And so how do you not?
That's right.
And I can give you 100 stories like this. And so my deal is, if it's needed, I guess that's why I'm still alive, and I'm yours.
Absolutely, and like I say, there are different ways that people work, and that's the way that Dave was meant to work. I was trained through the church, so I have kind of guidelines that I've been taught to go by, but they're not carved in stone either. They're things that I do on my own that the people of the church would frown upon. I don't always follow the rules because everyone is different and we have to sometimes make our own rules. But Dave is right. You just have to give what you get. And one of the biggest rules in this is if you don't give what you get, you're not going to get any more. So you have to spit it out. Even if you think it's ridiculous or doesn't belong anywhere, if it is something stupid, if they show you a beach ball and you say, "I have a beach ball," it might not belong to anyone. But those in spirit are going to say, "Okay, he got the beach ball. Now let's give him something else."
Yeah,
and if you don't acknowledge it, they're going to hang up on you.
It's about the trust in it.
It is.
Developing the trust and knowing whatever's coming is true.
Yep.
So.
And it's strange because, well, they say this type of thing, it's mostly women. When Steve first met me and when I meet mediums the first time, or when I first started, they were really thrown off because an engineer and this doesn't make sense. And yet, a lot of the people that are working in my workshop and helping and stuff are engineers and scientists and physicians and surgeons and nurses. And there doesn't seem to be any compromise going on here. They just, it is, and it really is. And some people ask me, do you believe in this, in these things? I said, no, I do not believe in these things. They are. It's not a belief. There's plenty of churches, if you want to go believe in something, I don't ask you to believe this. If anybody here is watching, I would never ask you to believe that I can bring your mother or father here. But if I had the opportunity, and if they should come, they will come in such a way that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, and then you know whether it is or it isn't.
That's right.
And so I leave it there. I don't
is.
believe, in this area, I don't believe in the gray area. Either it is or it isn't. Right. And I think that helps my messaging because I'm saying, come on guys, they have to know that.
Yes,
or I'm not going to be doing this. None of these generalities. That's why I like names. I have your Aunt Dorothy. I have your Aunt Dorothy. And if you have an Aunt Dorothy, you know that. And I don't have to describe her.
Yeah.
If I don't have to describe her to you, and then I say, and here's what she has to say.
Very good.
So it's a very, very interesting area.
And you do it. Well, now you retire, but you do it for a living. But both of you, regular stuff. Do you have regular clients, or how do you do that?
Well, he's a professional. I'm not. I'm a hacker. I'm just building this. I want this. I want what we are doing to become a center that attracts people, all mediums, all healers, all people that have a big heart, want to love and help people. I want to share everybody has a different way of doing these things, different tools, different approaches. And it's wonderful we can come together and share them without any judgment, comparison. And mediums that come to visit, they feel so warm and comfortable. They say, wow, finally a place we can talk about these things. And we do messaging. We explain how they're coming to us and how it feels so everybody can learn. And what we call a sitter, the person that's receiving the message, that as we are delivering the message to them, we're teaching them how they can pick up for themselves. So they don't need a medium. They just should be talking to their own parents and their own guides and listening to them so they can.
Absolutely.
Example of that is I was teaching at Springfield Technical Community College, electrical engineering, and they set me up with a 9 o'clock course. Well, all the parking spots in the faculty parking lot's full. Every morning I'd get out and I'd say, hey gang, I need a parking spot, and I'd like it near the door, all right? And I'd start driving, and all of a sudden, I feel like I should slow down. I'd slow down, or I should speed up and make the yellow light. I'd do it, Or go a little different way, and every single morning I would come in, and there'd be a car pulling out, and I'd pull into the spot. For 2 years.
2 years.
Now that's a pretty good teamwork,
It works well.
And if somebody said this to me, I would say, you are definitely a liar. I mean, that's impossible.
Oh, I know that for a fact because I've done it myself too. It's just sending the attention and doing it on a regular basis. That's very good. So tell me a little more, either of you, a little more about Psychic Bridges, about what you're bringing in and what you created.
Well, Psychic Bridges, if I may, started actually in Dave's house as a group called The Living Room, because it was literally in his living room. And it was just a few mediums who would get together at Dave's house and kind of talk about what they did and their methods and try and help each other and give each other pointers. And then they started bringing friends and practicing on those friends giving messages. And it just grew and grew.
Stores.
Yeah.
Eventually it outgrew the house physically. And we've had to move to a building that we had to rent. And it's become a little bit more than just a group of people giving messages. It's more of a group of people not demonstrating what we can do, but what they can do. So it's very much a teaching environment now. And Dave actually can go a little bit more in about how it's structured and how it works and why it works.
Yeah, everything evolves. From the living room, we started experimenting with different things and different forms of healing and forms of mediumship. Bent all my wife's silverware up, spoon bending and table tipping and all those fun medium things and all the readings. But then it started to evolve. Everybody that was coming, all the new people would come, they began to become mediums. So we'd get a handful of new people. It would take 2 hours just to bring them readings because everybody in the room would bring them something. It was like we created a monster here, So we tend to stick to what we know. So when we moved to this building, 2 floors and all this, and people started coming in, and of course all of our regulars are now pretty good mediums. And the new people, week after week, they're starting to develop. And we ran into the same problem. We're spending the whole evening with people jumping in, having a ball reading, but the people coming in aren't, after 2 or 3 times, they're not learning anything else. So we designed a workshop, and it's like a wheel, 10 programs, 10 one-night programs, where there's 3 parts, 3 tiers in each one. There's a meditation. There are many types of meditations for many purposes. And so we speak about a meditation, the type it is. We have a handout that they can use at home, and then we actually practice it. And then we go to the healing part. We talk about one type of healing. They have a handout. We discuss it. We explain it, demonstrate it, and then everybody participates in that form of healing. Then we get to the mediumship part. We have a couple baskets, and they put their name on a paper coming in, and we will do a few readings for people at the first time they've had a reading, and for people who've been there before. We have 2 baskets. We'll do about 20 minutes of that, short readings, just so people can see how it's done. And then we do Q&A, and we explain how this is going on. And then we set up a mediumship activity where they all get an opportunity to participate and try it themselves. We call it like the sandbox. Everybody gets in and plays with all the toys. You learn to ride a bike by getting on it.
Absolutely.
And so that people not only receive, we don't have them there to receive a reading. We have them there to understand their realities so that they can do these things for themselves.
Yes, that's what I think you mentioned before, that like kind of a psychometry test, like again, like taking an object and trying to read somebody else's, even if they don't know who it is, but reading the information and just whatever comes to them, allow it to come. And I've done this with John Holland, famous
I know John,
psychic. He's fantastic, and he did for the entire audience, it was like over 1,000 people. And we just grabbed whoever was next to us, object, and just like grabbing it. And almost everybody got amazing readings, amazing, interesting stuff. And people don't think that we have the ability, but we do if we just let it just flow through without
Everybody has it, and it's very natural. When it happens, it seems so easy. Wow, how did that happen?
And if I may, Dave mentioned a little about learning healing. It's not just mediumship and psychic ability. Healing is actually more important. It's all the same energy. It's how our intention is, what we're going to use it for. We can use it to heal, we can use it to communicate. It's all the same energy. But we have documented cases of people who were in a position where they were not going to be among the physical living for very much longer, and they are still. One case in point took place out 3,000 miles from here, and we were sending group healing to this lady who was at the end of her
Terminal
time.
cancer, yeah.
And she is completely free and clear of any disease, and the doctors have completely documented
Terminal
this.
cancer.
And if I may quote Dave, we don't know if we did it, but we don't dare not do it.
That's right.
Right?
There you go.
I saw a friend of mine, he owns a plumbing supply place in Westfield, and I hadn't seen him in 20 years, and something made me go down the aisle where the offices are that morning. And the first office was Bobby's. And I looked in, I said, "Bobby, how are you?" "Hey, Moquin," he says. And he's got oxygen tubes and tanks and everything, and I said, "How are you doing?" He says, "I'm probably gonna be dead in about 5 or 6 weeks."
Wow.
And he looked gray, I mean, just as gray as can be. And then he explained to me he had needed a double lung transplant, and he hasn't been well enough to get one, and the tissues don't match, and there's a huge line ahead of him, and all of this. And I said, "Bobby, we don't know each other very well, but I'm going to do this. And I have a group meets on Tuesday evening. We're going to send group healing for you to get those lungs." He started crying. He thanked me. He didn't believe, he just that I cared enough to say something. He didn't think for a second that he thought I was probably crazy. Well, I am anyway, but besides that. So Tuesday night, we all gathered together and we sent a healing to Bobby. And 7 days later, 5:30 at night, his daughter called me from Mass General Hospital. And she said, "My father, before he goes under the knife at 7 o'clock, wants you to know that he is so grateful. He has a pair of 18-year-old lungs going in, although he feels terrible that somebody had died. And the doctors said that God must have wanted him to have those lungs because the first days he hasn't been sick, and everybody else fell out, and the tissues matched." They said it was like a 1,000,000 to 1 that could happen. All those happened, and it did for him.
Wow.
And there we come back to the phrase. We don't know if we had any effect on that, but having that happen, we don't dare not.
Absolutely.
And we have some dear friends now that they're been told to put their things in order, and we're not quitting. We're going to see if we can affect a change. But just, a lot of studies have been done. The intent, churches successfully healed many people by prayer, and it's the same thing as the intent.
And if I may add, healing isn't always making someone physically better. Healing energy may be used to help someone pass easier.
That's
With
right.
less pain or with less of a fight. Let them accept
Yeah.
whatever is for the highest and best for them.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Come back to that.
Yes.
It's about acceptance.
I got a quick story here.
Yeah, please.
We have a gentleman that was a nominee for the Pulitzer. You've met him, and he's a journalist. And I met him in the shop where we were getting our cars fixed, and his sister and his mother came to him through me. And that kind of blew his socks off, because he's into this the science versus psi, and the validity, and is there something to this? And after that reading took place, it opened his eyes that, hey, this is real possible. Did he really guess at all this? And how come I did feel my sister like that? And so he started arriving on Tuesday nights. What we didn't know, he started an investigation.
Yeah.
And he was investigating us for what? How many months?
Yeah, about
8 months?
8 or 9 months.
And he was
undercover investigation.
Absolutely, because he's writing this article, And in fact, the New York Times. And we feel they haven't published it yet because they would have published it in an instant if he said he found that we were phonies and this was a fraud and that we're bilking people. We charge almost nothing. Doesn't even pay for what we do half the time. But what happened is, right now he's one of our best mediums. Not only did, every night he'd stay there and I'd bring his father to him and this and that, talking about the barn and the horse he used to have, and his father just, through him, we'd just have conversations for hours. And he'd sit there, he went through a lot of Kleenex in my house, by the way. We ran out of that, we went to the toilet paper. But anyway, I didn't know he was sandbagging me, and he didn't know he was becoming a medium. And he was going to come here this afternoon, but family matters and he couldn't. And, but,
That's a wonderful story.
isn't that kind of neat?
Yes. Turning them in the right way.
Well, it's like none of this is something we actually engineer. There's something going on here.
Absolutely.
These coincidences and things, they aren't of our making.
Another thing if you want to shed your light, and any one of you, that I notice and I know that it is happening, is the fact that that seems to be that veil between this world and the other world seem to be thinning. It seems to be easier and easier to read.
Mm-hmm.
I think it fluctuates. One speaker that I listened to recently was an astronomer, and he was saying that when spiritualism began to flourish, the planets had a certain alignment. And that particular alignment is where the planets are now at this particular time. So this might be a time when there's a resurgence of this. And I think some of the things that have happened in mainstream religion that are turning people away, they don't know what they're turning to, so they're looking. And I think curiosity is on our side as far as people are looking for something. Dave mentioned that I'm a professional. I'm not in it for the money. Believe me, if I was in it for the money, I would have been gone a long time ago, because there's really not any money in it. I'm in it to help people. But I've noticed a lot of my clientele are people who are affluent. And they've reached a point in their life where, okay, I have everything. What else is there? Let's see what else there is. It's not always the people who've lost someone. It's just the people who want to know what else there is.
Yeah, the curiosity, the knowing that there is something beyond it, and seeing it and feeling it, and knowing that there's so many good people out there that are doing the healing and doing the work, and are bringing wellness and light into the world. It's just it really is just a wonderful thing.
It is.
There was a date that was thrown around before December 21st, 2012. And I don't know if a lot of these things have begun on that, but there's a sense that maybe that was around the beginning of this new sense of awakening. And it also happens to be my birthday. So everybody's saying the world's going to end. I said, yeah, sure, my birthday, wouldn't you know? First day of winter, the shortest day in the year, and an hour after I was born, my grandfather's house burned to the ground. That's a fun way to come in, huh?
Interesting. Interesting.
And by the way, my grandmother, I didn't know about until recently, my grandmother was a medium. She used to read, when I was a kid, we'd see all these cars lined up from New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania on a Sunday. And all these people lined up, and they're in my grandmother's living room, and she's off in this other room. And my mother said she's reading tea leaves. Never made any sense to me. See, back then, if you said you were bringing messages from the dead, you'd be locked up in a loony bin somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But I didn't realize that until my sister started sending me some things about my grandmother and pictures, and there was this cookbook that was made, and my mother wrote things about it, and in it was about her tea leaf reading for 40 years. She read tea leaves.
Strange you should mention, not that I'd go with the term loony bin, but before I did this, I worked in psychiatric medicine as a nurse.
So he knows.
A psychiatric unit. And one of the things I learned there was those people are not all crazy. Some of them are just sensitive. They're hearing voices because someone is speaking to them. And it's kind of part of what brought me in this direction a little bit, among other things. But yeah, I learned that there were people who were just very sensitive to changes in the energies around them, and they didn't know how to handle that or why it was happening. And if you tell a doctor you're hearing voices, he's going to give you some pills.
Yeah.
And the voices may go away, and a lot of other things may go away with them. So I learned that, you know what, instead of making them go away, let's find out what they want.
That's right.
And if it's something good, great. You know, that's just the way that I opened up to it, part of the way that I did.
Yeah, wonderful. So you guys are located in, what town is it that you are located?
Our center is in Westfield, Massachusetts.
Westfield,
It's called Psychic Bridges. It's on Route 202 in Westfield, Massachusetts. Dave is from Westfield. I'm from nearby South Hadley, about 10 minutes away from there.
Very good. And you're here in town to do an event tonight, and hopefully you guys are going to come back soon, okay? And that'll be wonderful, and I would love to have you guys soon. And do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I think we could talk all night.
We could, yes.
We could.
Without a problem whatsoever.
The only thing I'd like to say is that Dave and I are on the same page as far as we absolutely love to do what we do. And when we do this, I have to say it again, it's not showing people what we can do, it's showing them what they can do. Because anyone and everyone can do this. Like taking piano lessons, we could all learn something. Some of us will learn faster, some of us will learn slower, some of us will have to change over to the saxophone or the guitar, but we'll all learn something from it. We all have that ability. And as individuals, we can all use it differently. That's how we look at it.
That's wonderful, and that's really important because I think it's important people love this, and they want to know more. And it's surprising to see how little can you find somewhere they can learn it, and that's really an important. That's why I love about you guys. You bring in the learning, the teaching part of it as well into the.
There's an element that I've overlooked, and it's probably the most important element in all of this, and it's one that's most overlooked, and that's the person that has passed on. They're an energy now, and they're in the people that they love. They're like part of their, the intelligence is built into all atoms.
Part of their essence.
And we forget about them. And I have another one of my crazy stories. It was in my living room one night, and I said to this woman, "May I come to you?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "I have a woman named Rose. She says she's your mother." And of course, then she started to cry and all this, and she then brought a lot of nice memories and things and all kinds of stuff. I don't remember my messages. I have an automatic erase. I don't want to know them. Not my business. But the one thing I remember about this evening is, right after I finished with her, I started to tremble, and every single atom in my body was shaking, and it was delicious. It was a wonderful, wonderful feeling, but I could almost not stand. I had to sit down. And I said out loud, "What is going on here?" And her mother came back to me, and she said, "I'm thanking you. Do you have any idea what it is like to be with your daughter for 25 years, as she graduates from high school thinking of you and crying because you couldn't see this? And here I am with her, sharing her graduation with her wedding with her college graduation, her first baby, and even going through her divorce with her. I was there for her, all of that, and she never felt or knew that. And now she knows that I'm with her."
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's.
And then to reinforce what Dave is saying, it's all about healing, and I feel that spirit communication is a form of healing. If someone comes to me and they miss someone because they feel a sense of loss, and I'm able to bring that grandmother or someone through, it's healing for that person.
Absolutely.
It's also healing for the grandmother because now she knows she can get through. So it's a two-way street. It's a.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned before that it's also important for the people on the other side, those who have passed away.
Yes.
For you guys.
Actually, that's what we do it for the most.
Yes.
Yeah.
If your mother or grandmother wants to come see you and she's tagging me, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for her, because she wants to tell you love you. She wants to tell you, go get yourself a new pair of shoes. It's okay. Something like that. By the way, that's the truth. That's what she just said. Okay. And she would.
That's right.
And she is funny. She's trying to, we're not going there, Mom. We're going to leave it alone.
In the churches, we send healing out, as we do in the center, sometimes to people at a distance. All different types of healing: physical healing, emotional, even financial healing. You can ask to heal a relationship or a situation. You can ask for healing for someone else as a proxy, or you can ask for healing for someone who has passed. And we call that healing for progression. And a lot of people think, well, what do they need healing for? They're dead. They still need to find where they need to go and to progress, because the spirit world is a progressive existence, and we need to help them along their way as much as they help us. And by letting them communicate, we are helping them.
It's all energy. It's all forms of energy. No matter what kind of healing, emotional, physical, it's all different forms of just vibrations of energy, and it all needs on all levels. We never cease to stop. Energy never ceases to stop. We need to continue and evolve and continue to grow.
Agreed.
So it's.
May I say something for the audience that may be
Please.
viewing this? There is an excellent DVD out there on Amazon that you can get called The Living Matrix. And some of the the leading scientists throughout the world, particularly in quantum mechanics and biology and all of these they've come together, and they've brought much of the investigations and the experiments and all of these things that support and sustain distance healing, mediumship, and all these, and how energy does work.
In a scientific way, yeah.
In a scientific way, and it is a film I've seen over 20 times, and every time I watch it, I even get more out of it. And I highly recommend that to anyone to view. If you have any interest in this at all, again, it's The Living Matrix. It can be found on Amazon. It's around $13 or $14.
Yeah, it's worth it, definitely.
It'll make sense out of many of the things we discussed this afternoon.
Very good. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, we enjoyed ourselves.
Yes, this will be fun. So thank you very much, everyone. This was a pleasure. My name is Harry Kroner, and we had Dave Moquin and Rick Wilbur here, and we thank them very much for being here. And so look up Psychic Bridges or DaveMoquin.com, and it'll have the information over there if you're interested in talking to them specifically, or if you want to interested in learn about their workshops or about their gatherings. Okay, thank you very much. See you soon.